Eleanor had spent years in the sky, floating between destinations, always on the move. As a flight attendant, she had mastered the art of fleeting conversations, warm smiles, and making passengers feel at home in the confined space of an airplane. She loved the rhythm of it all, the hum of the engines, the scent of fresh coffee brewing before takeoff, the endless stories of strangers passing through her life. But she never expected her own story to change at 35,000 feet. Nathan wasn't even supposed to be on this flight. A last-minute change to his business trip had rerouted him from New York to London, leaving him frustrated and exhausted as he settled into seat 14A. He barely noticed Eleanor at first, distracted by his phone and the mounting stress of unread emails, until a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You look like you need this," she said, setting down a steaming cup of tea on his tray table. Surprised, he looked up. Eleanor's hazel eyes held a warmth that caught him off guard. He managed a small, tired smile. "That obvious," she chuckled. "Only to someone who sees it every day." The flight stretched long into the night. As the cabin lights dimmed and most passengers dozed off, Nathan found himself restless. He leaned against the window, staring out into the dark expanse of sky. Eleanor, passing by, noticed and paused. "Not a good sleeper?" she asked in a hushed tone. He shook his head. "Never on planes." She folded her arms, considering him. "I've heard every trick in the book, melatonin, noise-canceling headphones, counting sheep, but none of them work as well as a good story." He smirked. "And you happen to have one." "I've got hundreds." She leaned against the empty seat beside him. "I've been flying for years. I've met all sorts of people, been to places most people only dream about. But my favorite stories are the ones you don't expect, the ones that sneak up on you when you least see them coming." Nathan, intrigued, closed his laptop. "Like what?" She told him about the tiny cafe in Paris where the barista wrote poetry on coffee sleeves, the elderly woman who traveled alone just to keep a promise to her late husband, the nervous first-time flyer who ended up becoming one of her closest friends. Nathan found himself hanging on to every word, his own worries forgotten. He told her about his work, how he used to love traveling until it became just another obligation. For the first time in a long while, he felt present, as if the world outside the plane had momentarily disappeared. Time slipped away, and before they knew it, the captain announced their descent into London. The spell between them began to fade, replaced by the reality of separate lives waiting below. Nathan hesitated as he gathered his things. "What happens when we land?" Eleanor's smile was soft but knowing. "We could find out." He pulled out a business card, offering it to her, but before he could say anything more, she handed him a small napkin, neatly folded. "Read it later," she said with a wink before walking away. Hours later, in his hotel room, he unfolded the napkin and found a note written in neat handwriting, "Meet me in London. Let's write a new story." Nathan smiled to himself. For the first time in a long while, the idea of an unplanned detour didn't feel like an inconvenience, it felt like an adventure.